We've got with us Deepak Jain, President at ACMA, and we also have with us Sunjay Kapur, Chairman at Sonacoms. Gentlemen, morning. Good to have you on the show and hope you're staying in and staying safe. Deepak, if I could begin the discussion with you. After being shut for over 40 days, suppliers and component makers are now beginning to get up into action and lifting and finally, restarting operations post the lockdown. How prepared do you think at an industry level are companies to begin operations smoothly?
Well, unfortunately, we started the financial year with zero revenues. And, the supply chain is extremely integrated as well as interdependent. Let's say if few of us are ready, but if few of us are not ready, and depending on the geographic location, it really doesn't help us because we will not be able to have sustainable production runs. So, of course, we have got some partial relaxation. Some of the companies, some of our plants in the supply chain have got permissions to start. However, we are extremely cautious because to restart and then to stop because of this interdependence will have a heavy toll on us. And also, I think it's not just the supply chain, as a whole value ecosystem, we need to commence operations completely, including the demand side, the dealers. So the dealers are not able to start if they're not able to get footfalls and not sell the vehicles. Really, the OEMs as well as the supply chain would not be able to really resume operations.
Sure. Sanjay, hi, morning. You're beginning to resume operations rather soon on 10th or 11th itself. Shed some light on the readiness that you have at Sonacoms to begin operations smoothly.
Thanks. Deepak painted a good picture for the domestic market. We're mostly geared towards the export market. And for that reason, we've been able to ramp up pretty quickly. We've got sufficient manpower in the local area, and we're using them at this point in time. Of course, we have migratory labor that's gone away, and I don't know when they'll come back. However, we're geared up in terms of we've been running the maintenance of the machines even during lockdown, some basic maintenance, so that when we are ready, up and running, we don't waste time with that. So we've got good orders from the U.S. Farm equipment is an essential service in the U.S. A lot of other companies in the U.S. are still manufacturing OEMs, and therefore we've been able to bring our production back to almost 50% capacity in terms of our component business and almost 100% in terms of our assembly business.
Who's taking over?
All right. Sanjay, just to take that forward as well, this is Abha also joining in. How big a challenge do you really foresee in restarting ops with a few clusters that are still closed? Your assessment as well of the key nodes when it comes to the supply chain and their readiness to really get things going again.
The supply chain is extremely complex, and our real problem will be a start-stop model. If we were to start and then stop again because of any sort of positive cases, if the government decides that they're going to stop the production, then go back, that's really going to be the big challenge that we're going to face. However, at this point in time, the challenge we're facing is really getting enough people ready to operate in different throughout the supply chain, because there's a lot of restriction in terms of movement of labor, even between a green zone and an orange zone. Fortunately, even in red zones, there's some people are allowed to sort of get back into production. So even at a low capacity, and so it's shaping up okay. However, we are going to face problems with ramping up when the volumes really go through the roof because of manpower.
Okay, so lots of challenges there. Deepak, what role are industry bodies really playing to ensure compliance to regulatory norms, preventative measures? Are you already seeing steps that have been taken by companies as well? And talk to us about, how you're actually seeing some of this being implemented on ground.
So I think the health and safety of our associates, of our citizens is of the prime importance. I think the auto industry per se was always a leader on shop floor practices, be it quality, be it productivity. Even the partial resumption, I think everyone is making their shop floor ready so that we are able to comply with all the social distancing norms. Also, I think a lot of information has flown in from internationally how different markets have actually approached that. And I think we are going to be ready for the compliance, at least in terms of all the regulations and health and safety. But the biggest challenge and concern would be also to ensure that the fear factor is dispelled between our employees, and that kind of confidence we will only get when actually the workmen come onto the shop floor, we actually make sustainable production runs. And also, I believe the whole ecosystem will develop a confidence that we can make safe and sustainable production runs.
Sanjay, I was looking at data coming from China. And surprise, surprise, China is indicating that the car demand is making a comeback. Last night, Uber CEO also has said that ride-hailing demand seems to be making a comeback. Now, the coronavirus is going to spread the same way like it did in China, in US, and in India. So the fact that normalcy is returning back, should we expect the similar situation to happen in India also, that right now it looks difficult, tough, and almost impossible to imagine that auto sales and auto demand will revive? But the evidence from US and China is indicating that the light at the end of the tunnel is not far once things start picking up.
I think, it's a matter of demand creation. The OEMs are pushing towards, some sort of incentives for demand creations. In China, they've created a lot of incentives for demand creation. And that's really what's going to drive, the industry picking up. In terms of, Uber, etc., I'm not certain in which direction that'll go. And I think there'll still be a fear. It's a mindset issue until people are, overcome that fear of, the virus spreading, etc. We're hoping that people buy more vehicles, buy more private vehicles. And that's, what we're banking on. And again, if we have good GST incentives as well as a scrappage policy, things like this that OEMs are also pushing for, and government is working together with OEMs, I think demand creation will come around.
So Sanjay, immediate follow-up question is that we understand that in certain states the labor issues are getting changed. What is your understanding of migrant labor and labor issues which are there in the auto industry? Because auto industry, Vikram Kiloskar told us earlier in the show that employs about 3.5 crore direct or indirect people. Where do you think the labor laws and the state in which you have your manufacturing units, the labor laws are moving there?
So I feel, the migratory labor, the big issue we have is of labor not available. Availability of labor is scarce at this point in time. And I'm not certain when it'll come back. Fortunately, we have a lot of local labor, which allows us to operate at the levels that we need to at this point in time. With regard to wages and salaries, I think we're looking for help from the government in terms of maybe using CSR funds or ESI funds or working capital at low interest rates so that we can pay out the labor. And that's really what we're hoping for, some sort of benefits from the government. And we're pushing for that at this point in time.
Right. Also wanted to understand, Deepak, from you, right now, more than profit or loss, it's the cash flow which is seeming like a large issue. And this is not just for OEMs, but across industry verticals. How easy is liquidity at this juncture for companies to, borrow from NBFCs or banks?
Well, unfortunately, liquidity remains a challenge. We are a very tiered organization. ACMA itself has about 850 members, of which about 50% of the members are less than about revenues of 200 crores. And I think it's also tier 2, tier 3. So liquidity extremely is a massive challenge right now. As Sanjay mentioned, that today it's not about actually profits or losses, actually about cash flows. And we had to pay our salaries Few of the companies have been able to manage to do that. But unfortunately, I can't say for all. Also, I believe that the OEMs have definitely stepped in and helped the supply chains by paying timely payments, but it needs to trickle down all across. We had actually made many recommendations to the government to say that we need support on the working capital, be it actually ad hoc increase or limits of working capital or moratoriums. But we do see a resistance from the banks still when it actually comes in giving us liquidity.
Deepak, Sanjay, both of you, thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking with us. And Sanjay, we'll chat again with you once the operations at Sonacoms are up and ready.